Let's really talk about ExoSquad, because this is one of the most misunderstood, mistreated, and quietly ambitious animated shows of the 1990s, and its disappearance says more about the era than it does about the quality of the show itself. When ExoSquad debuted in 1993, it arrived wearing the disguise of a toy-driven action cartoon, but almost immediately revealed itself to be something far heavier. On the surface, it was about humans in powered exoframes fighting genetically engineered beings called Neo-Sapiens across the solar system. But underneath that armor was a story about slavery, rebellion, genocide, propaganda, and the moral cost of war. This wasn't window dressing, it was the point. ExoSquad wasn't interested in good guys versus bad guys, it was interested in cycles of oppression and what happens when the oppressed become the aggressors. Here's the part people forget. ExoSquad was good. Not for a kid's cartoon good, just flat-out good storytelling. Characters died and stayed dead. Wars had consequences. Leaders made decisions that haunted them. The Neo-Sapiens weren't cartoon villains, they were former slaves who rebelled, and the show refused to simplify that reality. At a time when most cartoons hit the reset button every episode, ExoSquad let trauma, loss, and ideology carry forward. That alone put it miles ahead of much of its competition. Critically, the show was respected, even if it wasn't loudly celebrated. Reviewers and animation historians later praised it for its serialized storytelling and thematic depth, often comparing it favorably to Robotech and early anime influences. The problem wasn't that critics didn't get it. It was that the show existed in a marketplace that didn't know what to do with it. Networks were still framing animation primarily as a vehicle for toy sales, not as long-form narrative television, especially not for kids. And that's where the real trouble started. ExoSquad was tied directly to a toy line, and while the toys sold decently, they didn't explode the way Playmates or the network hoped. The show demanded attention, emotional investment, and continuity, things that didn't translate easily to casual after-school viewing. Miss a few episodes, and you were lost. For network executives and toy partners, it was a liability. Timing also worked against it. ExoSquad aired in a transitional moment for American animation, right before anime-influenced, serialized storytelling would become more accepted. A few years later, audiences embraced shows with darker arcs and long-term consequences, but in 1993 to 1995, that kind of storytelling was still considered risky. Parents occasionally complained that the show was too violent or too serious, while kids expecting lighter action were sometimes caught off guard by its intensity. The show didn't fail because people disliked it. It failed because it refused to compromise. After 2 seasons, despite a planned third arc, the series was cancelled. The war it was building toward never fully resolved, and the characters never got the closure they were clearly written to earn. Unlike many cartoons that fade into obscurity, ExoSquad became a cult favorite, rediscovered years later by viewers who finally had the maturity and patience to appreciate what it was trying to do. Its absence from mainstream streaming platforms for years only deepened its mythos, turning it into one of those you-had-to-be-there experiences of 90s animation. ExoSquad is one of the clearest examples of a show that outgrew the system it was created in. From a Doctor Flashback angle, it's a meditation on power, rebellion, and moral grey zones, wrapped in armor and marketed to kids who maybe weren't supposed to understand it yet, but did anyway. This wasn't a show cancelled because it lacked vision, it was cancelled because it had too much of it for its time. That's why ExoSquad isn't just forgotten, it's waiting. Waiting for the kind of audience, platform, and cultural moment that finally understands what it was doing back in the 90s, when American animation wasn't quite ready to grow up, but ExoSquad already had.